cannot believe what I just witnessed as the Toronto Maple Leafs lose their third straight game. A pretty rough game from start to finish, and it's time to have a conversation about Morgan Rielly. We're going to break down, a lack of offensive performance, and also Darius is in his new setup, so shout out to that. It's been a long time in the making here, but what's up, everybody in here? It's we're over halfway through the season, a frustrating game, an annoying game. Stretches like this are going to happen. And if anything, it may be a sign to come for what moves they need to make as the trade deadline inches closer and closer. What's up, Francesco, Devin, Marco, Reckless, Positive, Scott, Shane, Eric, Ray, Rampage, Joshua, everybody. Welcome in. A rough game. And I'm ready to move on to the next one. I mean, they're not going to be playing a lot of games here soon. So it's going to be Saturday's a huge game. What's up, Marshall?
Yeah, they got to pick up a couple points on Saturday against the Edmonton Oilers. And I mean, if anyone's into making bets, bet on John Klingberg to score his first goal with the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday. But yeah, a game like this just shows the holes in the Leafs game right now. Like they got to make a move here soon, heading into the trade deadline sooner rather than later. Because again, another game like this, I don't know, Nick. Like tonight was just, man, they play boring caliber of hockey, and it's okay when they win, but it looks really ugly and like they have nothing when they lose like tonight. And again, they're still missing like Tavares, Nyes is out, guys like that, right? But they got to find somebody to play with Rielly, and they got to get Rielly going. I don't know what's going on outside of the rink. He's got a lot going on in his personal life this year. Obviously, a lot's been made about that. But if that's the case, then hopefully he'll pick it up next year. But wow, he is not having a good year whatsoever. Like it is so obvious now. So Rielly's got to get that going. He's got to get that under control.
Yeah, he's been terrible. Was the reason the Leafs gave up the first goal. But I know there's going to be a lot of the coach wasn't the problem. I miss Keefe. I don't miss Keefe.
Don't know about that.
But I mean, the team again, there's going to be some overreactions because they were playing really good for a while. Now they're playing not so good. Look at the box score tonight. Again, they're missing a lot of their guys. Joseph Wall had a really good game, but other than that, like it's anyone who bet Berube's fired, no chance. I don't think so. But I mean, again, William Nylander was the only one who scored. They put some pressure on late in the game. They outshot the Wild. They had almost double the Wild shot attempts. Like there were some positive things. At the end of the day, nothing's going right now. And you can't see the puck go in the net. They haven't been scoring like any goals. The power play always, they got a couple power plays tonight. It was rough. Yeah. So something needs to shake up here, and maybe they make a big move at the deadline or something like that. But it's a rough one.
Yeah, there's a couple options that have become available over the last day or two, obviously with St. Louis and Brandon Saad. So we're going to have a video on that tomorrow, but they got to make a move here. And that one could come quickly. That's not a trade. They can just sign him. So I think that's pretty interesting. I wonder if they take a look at that league minimum, something like that. Obviously, I think a lot of teams will be, wanting that. But again, as they get healthier here, we'll get a better idea of what they look like. But it's just weird decision making that is still plaguing them. Like you got 30 seconds left on the clock. Mitch Marner opts to pass instead of shooting. It doesn't make sense to me. Very quiet night for pretty much everyone. I noticed the third line a lot. So that's a positive. And some of those guys like Robertson, I noticed trying to make an impact. Lorentz driving the net, stuff like that. But the top guys, again, another kind of boring, slow, not much from them night. And I think that's a little bit concerning because when you make that much money, you got to be going every night. Connor McDavid goes every single night, right? So when you're making that much, I want to see that from everybody every night. So another tough loss. Minnesota's a great team, but they're missing their best player and by far their best player, right? So I was hoping, and they have a great goaltender, great goaltending, but still, I would got to score more than one goal. I mean, they have 2 goals in their last 9 periods, I think, at this point, or something like that. Like, it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's really bad. Someone said we need a third center bad. Yep, you do. Minton I don't think he played bad necessarily, but he didn't play good. He played just as you'd expect from him. Everyone is scared out there. We are pulling the puck off of the boards to just push to the outside and regroup on that line. Yeah, I mean, there was not much pressure until the third period. Then they started to put things up. Some horrible turnovers. Obviously, Mitch Marner gave up the turnover. I mean, that wasn't really his fault. He had to skate the entire length of the ice to get the puck, and then no one was really available for an entry anyway. So, I don't know. It was, Ryan Reeves played less than 5 minutes. The whole fourth line, very short leash. No one played above 7 minutes and 40 seconds on the fourth line there tonight. Camp Lorentz and, of course, Ryan Reeves. So, I mean, it's Pacioretty had 5 shots on goal. I think he looked pretty fresh at the very least, which was good to see. Like there are some things, but they need to score the puck, which is something we hadn't seen in prior years when it comes to regular season being an issue. But I mean, I'd rather them have an issue with scoring the puck during the regular season than the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah, and like I saw some stuff I said in a previous video a couple days ago. Like the Leafs don't need like Taylor Hall on their third line. Like that's not going to solve the issue. They don't need more scoring per se throughout the lineup. It's the way that they play. It's the way that they play, and I think Berube's trying to get them to play more of a style. And we've seen flashes of it this year that works, but it's gone away the last couple games, and I don't know why, but it has. And they're not, there's a couple of times tonight, like I don't know why the puck doesn't go deep. I don't know why they're hanging on to it. Turnovers, so many turnovers tonight, like brutal, absolutely brutal. So they have to clean stuff like that up. And again, there's times throughout this season where they kind of revert to what they were doing last year and previous years, and I don't understand why. There's been flashes of stuff where the system has changed a little bit. It's the way that they play. There's so much perimeter play. They're passing off of shots that they should be taking or just putting low on the net that other teams do. They're not putting pucks to area, stuff like that. When they do things like that, and we've seen it this year, they look successful. They have been successful. They're still pretty successful, right? Like they're top of the Atlantic Division, but still, it's just games like this where you hope that you play up to your opponent or you play to your opponent's level as well.
Yeah, people are talking about missing the playoffs. I get it, but
I don't know about that.
They're still first in the Atlantic. A lot of the other teams on their tail haven't been playing good hockey either. So it's like they're missing they're missing half of their team. They're first in the Atlantic. I get the overreactions, but they'll definitely make the playoffs. Great time to trade now with Johnny out. We know what the Leafs need to build chemistry. Lines have been put through a blender this year. I mean, yeah, there's been a ton of injuries. We'll get you in a minute, actually, Eric. I think you're the only caller waiting right now. Joseph Wall has been fine. Like, we'll get Anthony Stolarz back. You get Matthew Nyes back. Maybe even John Tavares back all Saturday. And then Florida passed us now. Okay. Did they win tonight?
That might have been a tonight thing, yeah.
Panthers did win. So now the Leafs are down by a point in the Atlantic. And however, they have a game in hand on the Panthers. So, I mean,
still brutal because at one point they were 5 points up. It's just like when you squander these leads and stuff like that, especially with the opponents they've been playing, like you gotta pick up these wins.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm not trying to say it's not bad. It's unfortunate they've been playing really bad hockey, and ultimately Riley was turning over. Yeah, I mean Riley was horrible. Nick Robertson had some nice plays, but as a whole, some sloppy turnovers. I mean Austin Matthews 6 shots on goal. You needed one from him. This is a game where he did. Half the team. I mean, half of their important team, I guess. Obviously, you're never missing half the team in hockey, but you're missing John Tavares, Matthew Nyes, Anthony Stolarz, and you're missing some of the other guys for a while there as well. So obviously not
Paul the entire season.
Yeah, so obviously not like half the team, but I mean half of their top 6, or I guess a third of their top 6. But for a while there, they were missing a lot. But then of course Anthony Stolarz as well has been out. You know, Jake McCabe out for a while, so the injuries have been really rough. We face Ottawa is winning, and they're on the tail now. Not necessarily of the Leafs, but they are approaching. The Leafs still have a bit of room there. Only 6 points up in the wild card. There's nothing. It is getting dangerous.
Yeah, they got to 6 points is not much, right? Like other teams can make up ground very quickly. It's going to be a crucial February or rest of February, I should say. Obviously, with the Four Nations face-off, they're going to be healthy coming into the Four Nation or out of the Four Nations face-off, which I think is a good thing. But or maybe not. It really depends what happens in the tournament, I guess. But you'd think that you're going to be healthy, so it should be a crucial end of that month. Now, obviously, March is going to be busy heading into the playoffs in April.
Hit the like button. I know we're all upset. Let's try to get to 25. I know people are upset, but your guys' support is still appreciated. Go ahead.
Yeah, still appreciated. I mean, it's been great all season, even through losses, even through the toughest games. So, and there's been ones that are worse than this, so that's fine. But
it's been a bad stretch, though.
Been a bad stretch. I was hoping that they would win this one to kind of not let it kind of snowball a little bit more, because I didn't like their game against Ottawa, right? Like the last couple of games haven't been great. I mean, the last really great performance was obviously Montreal over a week ago at this point. So obviously they haven't been playing that much compared to December, but still, like, can't let stuff like this snowball, and they allowed it tonight. I mean, they didn't come out great. They really didn't again. And then I was like, okay, maybe let's see what happens in the second period. Flat. Third period, you get a nice lucky goal, I'll call it. Like, it's a smart play by Nylander. But, I mean, tap in goal, nice redirection, and then what? Nothing much, right? Like, that was the game. So, very interesting. Heading into, obviously, Four Nations, trade deadline, stuff like that. What are they looking at? Are they going to pull the trigger quickly? I think JT Miller is going to get traded, like, this week or early next week. So, that might
been some rumblings
up a little bit.
Been some rumblings with the Leafs.
Been a lot of rumblings with the Leafs as well. So, including Morgan Riley. So that could be interesting. But the thing for me is like sometimes with the Morgan Riley thing, like he's having an awful season. Let's call it what it is, right? Like he is awful this season. I think there must be something going on away from the rink that is affecting him this year that I feel like won't affect him going forward. Like I don't think this is Morgan Riley all of a sudden. This is what he is because we've seen him in the past. I don't think if he'll ever be the 72 point guy, right? He's maybe going to be like a 40, 50 point guy for the rest of his career on average. I don't think he is what this is this year, right? Like next year, maybe he'll have a better year, but like try and figure it out this year because you are having a terrible year. I don't know if it's trade worthy in the way that like, yes, you want to fix it this year, but looking to the future, I feel like he can still be a great player. And he was great in the 2023 playoffs. So I don't think he is exactly what he is this year, like all of a sudden overnight, but this is a tough season.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
awful.
Goals for the Leafs in their last 5 losses: 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. So the team, obviously, I mean, in their losses, they're going to score less, but like not even being able to put up a fight when it comes to the scoreboard. I mean, I think they
Mhm.
put up an okay fight in the third, and they always do put up a decent fight in the third period, but it's always too little, too late, and then you pull your goalie with 2 minutes left there, you can barely even get an entry, and it was it sucks. I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
though, this is going to be interesting to see what they do at the deadline. I mean, there is a real world here where they make they're either going to play it pretty passive or they're going to make a huge swing. And whether that, because there's a lot of blockbuster players seemingly available. I mean, we're talking about JT Miller. You're talking about some of the other guys that have become available lately. There's, the trade deadline is going to be hot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think there is a world where they play it safe, like the usual deadline, similar to last year. But there's also a world, we get Eric in a minute because I know he loves talking about the trades,
Yeah.
but there's also a world where they go something bigger, whether that's trading Morgan Riley, whether that's, I doubt it, but trading Mitch Marner. There's a lot of different ways here that they could shake things up if they don't think this current team, or maybe if Craig Berube is saying, hey, I want a different personnel. I want some different personnel here. This isn't at where we want it to be come playoff time. That being said, they are 30 and 19, which is still a pretty solid record. Just not what Leafs fans are necessarily used to, even though they started off really hot and very up and down.
I am curious to hear what Eric has to say because, in talking about trades and, we love to talk trades on the call-ins and stuff like that too. I am curious to hear what he has to say, but there's certain years where I'm okay with the Leafs not going for it, not making big moves, maybe making a few tweaks here and there, some, depth player stuff like that. And I'm totally fine with that because I don't truly believe they can make a run at it. I don't think that's true for this year, especially when the team's healthy. I think you have to, like 2023, they're showing you signs like go out and make a big splash, not a big splash in like Evgeny Malkin or something like that, but go out, make a big trade, get them some help. I think they've shown that for the majority of this season. I think that they will. Again, it's a bad stretch right here, right? Like I think that they will get out of it. There's concerning players again, like Morgan Riley this season, that I just don't know if he's going to get out of it this year. But I think that they have to go out and do as much as possible to help this team and build this team up at the trade deadline. Like, go for it. Absolutely go for it if you're Brad Treliving this year. I don't think it's in his DNA to go and make that the biggest trade, but I think that he has to go out and do something to help the team. Like, they can't just add a couple of depth pieces and call it a day or just one or two. Like, go out and make a big trade and make this team better.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting. Let's get Eric in here. I believe
Yeah.
it's Eric.
As
Eric,
much as possible.
it's been a rough past few days. I know you're a big advocate of trading. So, what are your thoughts on this game? Anything you're feeling? And it's good to have you here for the call.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Darius. Thanks for having me on. But at the end of the day, boys, three straight loss. Willie's probably saying no big deal. And I know we got some injuries right now, and the least problem right now is getting pucks to the net. And guess what? Two of their big injuries are their main guys that get pucks to the net, Tavares and Nice. They're going to be coming back next game. I think this formation is going to give a good break for most of the Leafs. Mind you, there are 4 players that are playing within that tournament, but it's not the players that I'm concerned about to be stepping up their game. We know Matthew had his chances tonight. Marner, he's playing a very good year, contract year, so he's going to be playing the best he can to earn that money. And Willie as well, And it's tough for Willie right now. Like, he was really trying tonight, skating hard. He was making a lot of plays with the defenseman because he's got nobody on his wing or center to help him out. He plays best when Tavares is at center. Most of his goals and points came from Tavares. When you have Holmberg at center and Mitten on third line center, that's a problem. And I know it's been just a couple of games, but now you got a lot of teams knocking at your door here in the standings, and it doesn't take much. Look at Boston at the start of the year. They had, they were one of the first place team. They lost 5 in a row, and next thing you know, they're out of a standing. So it can happen quick, especially this year, guys. I've never seen it this close before, but it's anyone's ball game right now. It's anyone's game, to be honest. But I'm not too worried about it. We are, you guys are right. I do love to talk about trades, which I think we should get to in a minute here. But I want to get your guys' intake here on the game and how you feel about it.
Well, I think you made a great point with Nyes and Tavares being the two guys that do get pucks to the net, and a couple of guys like, again, the guys that are injured right now are usually their, whatever you want to call them, getting the pucks to the net and finishing and cleaning up the garbage, stuff like that. But I am worried about, there's always potential for injuries in the playoffs. So what happens if these guys, get injured? They're gone from the lineup. What do you do in that case? And one thing that I've noticed, especially this year and especially as of late, is they don't get pucks to the net. And a lot of that, again, tonight. And that was a thing that Sheldon Keefe talked about. And now Craig Berube's talking about it. So that tells me it was never a coaching issue in that regard. It's a personnel issue and a mindset issue. So, there's guys like Marner and, Matthews, even to a degree, sometimes always looking for the perfect shot. They just got to throw the puck to the net and low. I mean, OEL, every time he gets the puck at the blue line, he's putting it on net. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So, I don't hate it whatsoever. Riley's always looking for the perfect shot, stuff like that. They just got to put the puck to the net or an area, make something happen. And then when they finally figure that out, because like a bunch of other guys do it, Nyes does it, right? Or he's just cleaning up the garbage, he's just putting it to the net. So I think if they are able to just turn that mindset around, unlock that part of their game, and just do that, I think they'll find more success even in the playoffs. But again, that's something that it's been a long time and they haven't been able to figure it out for whatever reason. And it's been two coaches at this point.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I see Shane in the chat asking about Riley. He does have a no move trade, but just because they have a no move trade, guys, and everyone in the chat doesn't mean that they won't agree to a trade. They can waive their no move clause, and what other better place than to do that in Vancouver? And honestly, guys, I know you guys had stream about it, a month ago when all the drama started, and I was hemming and hawing about it. But if you think about it, about the cap going up in the next, couple years, JT Miller is locked at 8.5 for another 5 years against the cap. Like, that's, such a good price when that player could be worth, money Marner is making right now, 10, 11 mils maybe, but he's locked for another 5 years. So at this point, like the way Riley's been playing this year, why not? You got a good center. He can play the second line center, third line center. Why not try to, make something up here? Because I'm going to tell you guys one thing that I strongly believe. If the Leafs wait till the deadline, I don't think they're going to have a hard time finding a center, because a lot of teams are finding a center, and at the deadline, it's just a match against everyone. A lot of team has a lot more to offer than Leafs. The only thing that we can do that's beyond and beyond is, our prospects, either Cowan or Mitten. But like we've talked about a couple of, streams ago, is that this is the year that, could possibly be Tavares' last year. It could be Marner's last year with this decor. Like, why not try to go all out this year? You got nothing to lose. Honestly, like, why not? We wait, and I know we speculated about, someone with terms, all the things the Leafs are looking at. Someone with term, size that can play up and down the lineup, whether 2C, 3C, and not that big of a contract. Well, the only one on the trade board is Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
At 4.5, cap hit for another 2 years, and possibly a package deal with Luke Shen. We're looking for a D pair. Riley right now, he's not having a good year. My all-around guy right now is OEL. Like, you saw tonight how engaged he was and how the team had confidence in him going to the net, making those passes, although he shot the puck right into the glove. But again, he's creating chances for his team. He's active. I still like the shutdown pair of McCabe and Tanev, but they're splitting them up because Riley can't play with anyone. And when you have Myers and Benoit, like Hakanpää was supposed to be that guy.
Yeah.
So that's why when Klingberg was available, it's like, well, maybe they should put a push for that because maybe a guy like that can step up Morgan Riley's game. And with these acquisitions that we did last year with Tanev and OEL was supposed to relieve some of those minutes, we thought that, maybe that would be the case to release some pressure and stress off Riley, but that hasn't been the case. Checking the stats today, he leads the stats by 1 point for defenseman. I think he has 22 points, and OEL has 21. And then Tanev is just right behind them. So, I mean, he's producing, yes, but not he's not doing a great impact. I think his plus-minus isn't the greatest either. Like, I think Tanev leads with plus 18. But what's your guys' take on that? Like, do you see a world where they might offer Riley to go home and with Miller for locked at 8.5 for another 5 years? Like that's one of Treliving's deal. Like that's the dream here, no?
I think you could really shake things up. And I said it last summer. I was like, do I think Morgan Riley is going to get moved? I don't think so, but I think you have an opportunity here to do something really cool and special where you could really shake things up and change the identity of your team a little bit and help out in certain areas. So JT Miller, I don't think, there's a lot being made out of him being the bad guy in Vancouver. I don't know if I buy that 100%. I think he wants out and he wants to play meaningful hockey for a team that actually wants him. And he's a great hockey player still. Like, I don't think a lot of the stuff in the clips that people are cherry picking and putting on Twitter are actually what he's like. Like, he scored over 100 points last year. So you made a good point in Ryan O'Reilly too, where the Leafs have described this year a guy that they want, which is a two-way player that doesn't have a large cap hit that they can't afford, that they can bring in, that has term. That would describe Ryan O'Reilly and almost nobody else that, has been out there, floated out there. So that's an option. JT Miller, you would have to trade Morgan Riley to make the salary cap work. The Leafs would be eating a little bit more. Obviously, you get a guy with a lot of term who can help your team in this window. Like, absolutely right now, he would be a difference maker. He can play center. He can take over for Tavares at the center position next year. Tavares can move to the wing or even down the lineup, and I think that's fine. Tavares next year, third line center is totally fine by me, and going into the playoffs even. So that would be great. Riley, you would have to sell him. I don't think he wants to leave, but you could sell him like, hey, you'd be going back to Vancouver. It's not like we're trading you to Dallas or anything like that, right? Like, you can go back home if you want and maybe spin it that way. And in return, you're getting a pretty good player. But the only thing is, if you do make that trade, I think the offense is pretty much solved at that point because you got some pretty good depth on the wings. I think you just need another centerman for sure and a difference-making centerman. You would need to get another defenseman, and you don't have too much cap space left. You could go get somebody that could be okay, but I feel like you need another guy that's going to be able to make some type of impact. Again, Morgan Riley's not having a great year at all, but I think you would need another guy that could make some type of impact in that way, or maybe top 4 minutes, top 6, something like that. So that's the only thing that stumps me on that. But I think that, like, if both parties would be willing to do it, like, I think that's something that would solve, honestly, both teams' problems at this point. So it could be something that they look at.
Well, at the end of the day, like, even though he has a no trade clause, the Leafs kind of have like the last word, because after he scored that 70 point that year that he had 70 points, I think the year after is when he signed his contract, but he hasn't been playing $7.5 million worth of his money. Like, OEL is playing a lot more and he's making half the money. So why do we have a top D man? And like, I don't even consider him a top 4 right now. Like, that's how bad he's been playing this year. Sure, he's had his moments here and then in overtime, but like, we need a more consistent top 4 D pair, especially when it comes to the playoffs. But where I'm getting at is like, what I know the Leafs don't like creating drama, but what happens if they do like the Rangers and like Trouba he had a no trade clause as well, but he said, you know what, we're putting you on waivers, buddy, and then anyone can pick you up. So maybe the Leafs, they might have to go down that road to clear up that cap space, saying, hey, if you don't want to go there, we're going to have to put you on waivers. 100% he's going to get picked up. I mean, I know he hasn't had a great season, but it's still Morgan Riley, and in the playoff, he is a good defenseman. But the way he's been playing this year, do we want to take a chance and go in with him with the playoff? I'm just saying we're looking for, another defenseman. If we picked up Miller, which honestly I don't believe, but I'm sure that Tree Living's doing his due diligence and doing his phone calls. But man, like right now, like he's playing like Connor Timmins or Simon Benoit. Like that's the level that I see him playing at right now. So any of those two guys can take his slots in the third pairing and just find a D partner for OEL on that first line, and then you have McCabe and Tanev on that shutdown pair on the second line. And like I know OEL, he's a lefty, so maybe if you do try to get Shen or someone, I know Shen would probably love to come back to Toronto. Like it just didn't work out for money wise or whatnot then. But since then the cap has been cleared, we got rid of Brody, and now Chicago's trying to do the same thing. But I think that's what I would do, honestly. What's your take on that, Nick?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking about it. I think it's more likely than ever that Riley does get traded. Whether it's for JT Miller is the question. Now, regarding the no move clause, he does have a young family. We know that's obviously going to play a factor in it, but I don't know. He doesn't strike me as the guy that if the Leafs come to him and say, "Hey, we're going to move you for JT Miller," that he would decline it. Now, maybe he would and things like that, but I mean, it also I'm sure is taking a toll on him. I mean, he's playing terrible hockey. The Leafs fan base, the media, I'm sure isn't being. I mean, the media is usually pretty kind, but the fan base certainly isn't happy with how he's playing. It's again, there's going to be two paths for this trade deadline. And when I say trade deadline, I should clarify, I don't mean necessarily the trade deadline in 2 months. Any point from now leading up to the deadline, whenever those talks tend to pick up, whether it be now, I mean, we saw a blockbuster trade with Mika Rantanen that we never expected out of the blue in late January. So I don't know. I feel like now is more likely than ever for Morgan Rielly to be moved. Again, JT Miller, I would love it, to be quite honest with you, just to change something up here. That being said, we probably wouldn't be having the same conversation if they were winning these games. Now, we even during the winning streaks that they've had, we were talking about how bad Morgan Rielly has been, but I don't know how much these front offices have, when it comes to recency bias and things like that. I do think, though, that they see how bad Morgan Rielly has been playing. Let's not forget, I'm sure the Vancouver Canucks and the other teams see how bad he's been playing as well. So I don't know if we're going to be able to. It would be an interesting move, Morgan Rielly for JT Miller. They'd obviously have to either get another defenseman, move some things around. Go ahead.
I know he's playing bad right now, but it's like any other player. When a team sees a potential, they know what Morgan Rielly's potentials are. Just like OEL, when he had good season when he was with Arizona, and when he went to Vancouver, it wasn't as bad. And then, he picked up with Florida. But look at Patrick Laine, how he started. His first year with Winnipeg, it was amazing. And then a couple of years, he slid down the chart. And then he got traded to Columbus. And then he's with the Habs, and now he's picking up. Same thing with Pierre-Luc Dubois. His first couple of teams weren't working out, but now his team that he has now, they're rocking right now. So I do see a world. And honestly, with the cap going up, a D-man at 7.5 isn't considered too high, is also another thing. And Rielly's locked up for what, another 5 years?
I want to say 4 or 5 more years after this year. Yeah.
I think their contract, like him and Miller were the same. I think there was only like $500,000 or $1 million with a difference. And, so it would be very doable to do that trade. At the end of the day, like I would 100% do that.
Because UFA in 2030.
Going up.
UFA in 2030.
Yeah, and I think Miller too has another 5. Yeah, so they're expires on the same year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exact same year. Yep.
And what's nice with that is that, like, if you were to get someone like Miller, like the one thing, if you're the Leafs, you don't want a contract like Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner and Matthew Knies, all UFAs on the same year. Like you want to kind of spread that out, and like Matthew only has another 4 years, and so it would space it out a bit for try to figure out cap space. But at the end of the day, like we need another D partner, and at this point, maybe it is Rielly the problem because he's had probably 3 or 4 different D pair this season. So and again, this power play, it's brutal. I don't think it's the personnel because it's been the same thing for the last couple of years. But when you're playing against the worst penalty kill, or like Minnesota was ranked like 30th in penalty kill, and they had more shots on the Leafs shorthanded during their power play. So that's upsetting. So I think you bring in a guy like Miller, who's a power play guy. I know Riley too, but every other center that we brought up, it would help our bottom six, but it wouldn't help the power play. So if I'm the manager, I'm looking for a guy that can maybe do an impact also on the power play. Someone like Bruce Boudreau was on another podcast yesterday, and like he's a big believer in like one-timers on power plays, like the Washington with the Ovechkin, or when Stamkos was with Tampa Bay, and like Kucherov is doing it now. They're doing a lot of one-timers, and you just don't see anything for the Leafs. Like the first power play, they played the whole 2 minutes, and that was just trying to get in the zone, and they're just circling the puck. They're not getting the pucks to the net. Like, it's frustrating, and I get it. Everyone in the chat's upset right now, but like we're still in a good place, mind you. I know it's a close, but there's going to be a lot of positive things. I believe like Tavares was practicing full contact and all that. I'm sure he'll be back, him and Nicey, Saturday, which is going to be a big impact. Like Tavares is top in the league for battles in the corners and behind the nets and all that. Like it's like Matthews. Like when he's there, you have good confidence. And I'm not sure with you guys, but like I find with the Leafs, they've always been like this in the Matthews era, but like there's certain players that can only play with certain players, if that makes sense. I know Domi had his thing last year, but it was also a contract year. But this year, like I find he's garbage. Like he's probably like a third line guy, winger for sure, but I wouldn't put him in the top 6 unless there's injuries and all that. But I look at Willie today, like he cannot play with like Holmberg and all that. Like he plays best when it's Tavares, McMahon, Willie, because you got Tavares who plays defensively and all that. I know they got a goal tonight, but it was just right place, right time. That first line does play good with like Marner, Matthews, Matthew Nyes. They click. So the bottom 6 is the problem. I do not like when I don't even know why the guy's there. He played 4 or 5 minutes tonight. Don't know why he's in the lineup. Like, I know we have a lot of injuries, but like Lawrence is a good 4th line guy with Dewar. I don't know who that other guy might be. Might be Camp, probably the center. If they can find a 3rd line center that can fluctuate between your 2nd line and your 3rd line. So imagine if that would be a Miller or an O'Reilly that can have an impact also in the bottom pair. If we're down by 1, it's like they did tonight. They put Willie on Matthews line. Like they can move. They have more options. But if we keep Riley right now, that's not making an effect on the Leafs. Whether if he's in the lineup or not, I don't think that changes our defense this year, the way he's been playing. So why not offload that money? You got a lot of players that need raises this year. So why not, offload him? I know we picked up Miller, but then we can get a defense at retained salary or something. Like, I don't know what makes sense for you guys for center or defense. I know we talked about Seattle and the 3-way package deal, but anything of late that you guys heard?
I'm going to go so I've been looking at all the different options, and obviously we've heard Yanni Gord, we've talked about Scott Lawton, Nick Bjugstad. There's a couple other ones in there, obviously. My favorite, honestly, like I'm just going to say it. I know a lot of people are like, no, I don't want this guy, is Ryan O'Reilly. Like it just makes the most sense for him to come back.
Yeah.
That would be my target. If I was the GM of the Leafs, I would go get more Ryan O'Reilly because, low cap hit, you can get retained salary on that. Nashville has like no say really. Well, they do. Like you'd have to throw a sweetener in, but it's not like you're throwing a 1st-round pick in to retain half or anything like that. So, you can get retained salary on that. He's signed again next year. He's been here before. I feel like the only reason he left is because of the coaching and the philosophy. I don't think that he hated the players or anything like that. He wanted Nashville to trade for Mitch Marner, right? So I feel like the only reason he left was because of Sheldon Keefe, his philosophy and the organization philosophy at that time, which was the core 4 has to drag us to the promised land, which is not how team sports work. So I think that's the only reason he left. Because he signed the exact same contract he would have got in Toronto in Nashville. Luke Shen was a different story, I think, a little bit different. I think he wanted to stay, but the money didn't work out. But for me, if I was GM of the Leafs, I would go get Ryan O'Reilly. That makes the most sense to me. And in terms of Morgan Riley, you said a few things there that, make a lot of sense too. To me, this year, the common denominator is Morgan Riley. Like they're trying to find guys to play with him at this point instead of the opposite, which it's been the last couple of years because he's been a liability. Like right now, you have Tanev and McCabe, who've been the best pairing that I can remember for the Leafs. Like it's been like 15 years or 20 years or something that you've had like a solidified, shut down pair like that. And they've split them up because you need McCabe to play with Riley. And that's insane for a guy that makes 7.5, right? So that's just not something that's going to work. And it's going to have to be split up in the playoffs. They need Tanev and McCabe to play together. So they got to figure that out. And it starts with Riley's play. He has to figure that out because they should be able to just stick anybody with him and it works because he makes that money and he's that good of a player. But right now it's the other way around. So it just has not been good. But again, just to circle back, Ryan O'Reilly would be my guy that I would go target because it just makes sense. He has term. He's not that old still. He knows how to play in the playoffs. He's a good leader. He knows Berube. Obviously, they won a cup together. So for me, that would be a no-brainer if he would be open to coming back. Like if he wanted to come here and he wanted to play for this team.
It's going to be tough, honestly, because everyone knows like the Leafs are in desperate mode. So now the price tag is going up. Like when O'Reilly was traded to the Leafs, like I know Noel Acciari was in that package deal, but that was still a heavy price tag on O'Reilly. Like I know at the time he was making a 7.5 on the cap hit. The Blues did retain 50%, but he was also a he was a rental that year. Like he was. So I mean, they retained 50%, but he already played 3/4 of the year, so 50%, it's not much. And they got rid of who was it? Mikhail Abramov and Adam Gaudette.
Yeah.
Their first rounder in 2024, second rounder, and Ottawa's 2023 third rounder to the St. Louis. So that was a big cost for Ryan O'Reilly. I don't know what Barry Trott's going to be asking. I know it might not be that high, but I also don't think they're willing to retain any salary. So it's going to be interesting. And like I said, if they wait till the trade deadline, like the price is just going to go up, and we're going to be losing prospects for. I don't want to lose prospects for a rental, and I don't think they'll do that. But if we're in desperate, we're not going to make it to the playoffs if we have, Mitten or Holmberg as our third line center. Like it just doesn't make sense at that point. Like I'd rather just put Domi than be wasting our prospects, especially Cowan or Mitten. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting what they're going to do, but for sure they got to get someone with term, and that's why, like, I was thinking about that, like the JT Miller. We don't know what's going on. Like, it could be like a Leafs market where, someone sneezes and it's a big ordeal. So I know he had a leave of absence for a month. People go through things. They're not just hockey players 24/7. Their husbands, their fathers. Like, we don't know what the people go through. So. Again, I would like to see the most that makes sense is O'Reilly. Again, he did leave and didn't want to come back, but we'll see. Like now, Brendan Saad is terminating his contract tomorrow.
That too.
With the Blues. So they were talking about it tonight. I think the second intermission. Would it be interested in having? Well, we already have that kind of a player in Max Pacioretty. So for me, it wouldn't make sense to bring them on board. Like our team is already pretty old. Like we got some vet players, which is great and all, but I don't think we should be adding that. We should be adding, someone in their late 20s or whatnot. And what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's I think at the end of the day, I actually debate it all the time. Darius, I'm gonna get your thoughts on this first. 'Cause I want to bounce off what you say here. I have an interesting take, so I'll let you do a responsible take first.
I think with Brandon Saad specifically, like he's probably going to sign for league minimum here because nobody can really afford him at this point in time. Like if you wanted to sign for more, and everyone's heading into the trade deadline and has decisions to make. So I feel like he's going to sign with a contender for probably league minimum. That's the reason he terminated his contract. He wants to play in the NHL, and if he wants to play in the NHL, it's going to be for cheap. So, I think that's probably how that's going to shake out. I don't know if he fits with the Leafs. I was honestly looking at Puckpedia earlier today, and I'm like, I don't know how many more pieces. Like, the Leafs need a third line center for sure. But after that, I don't know how many more pieces you can add because there's Pacioretty in the mix. I mean, I was looking at the lineup today. Like, Holmberg's probably going to be a scratch in the playoffs. Robertson, if he sticks around, is a scratch in the playoffs. Again, barring any injuries, right? But you're scratching a ton of guys that are playing pretty regularly right now in the playoffs with this current lineup because Pacioretty's getting in, stuff like that. So if you add another guy in Brandon Saad, you're wasting a lot of money on wingers where I feel like you have maybe enough there right now. So it's going to be interesting to see that way. But Nick, Brandon Saad, I mean, it's an interesting. They could definitely do it if they want, but I don't know. I kind of agree with you, Eric, that like I feel like they're probably okay on the wings.
Yeah, they have bigger fish to
And
fry, I think, at the moment surrounding him. But we'll probably have a video on it regardless because of all the talk about it. And again, anytime you can get some players for that price, you obviously have to think about it. That being said, John Klingberg was also brought up by the Leafs. The Leafs get named and everything. But a quick thing here before we do wrap up, I do want to throw the impact score chart up on the screen, and we'll just get thoughts on this before I wrap up here. So you can see here, Chris Tanev was number 1, just to kind of transition back into the game a little bit. OEL was number 2, Nylander 3, Austin Matthews 4. And guess who was at the bottom? It was Morgan Riley. So not only does it not pass the eye test, it did not pass the advanced analytic test as well. Gentleman Club saying Brock Nelson's heating up as well. I mean, yeah, it's another guy. Darius is less high in him. But, I mean, you look at the bottom 6 here. Reeves, Kampf, Pacioretty, Fraser Minton, Nick Robertson, Jake McCabe, Morgan Riley. I mean, a lot of those guys, I'll give Jake McCabe a pass. Like, they just aren't playing well enough. And, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day here, Morgan Riley's back at the bottom of the list along with Jake McCabe. But it kind of feeds into these trade rumors. I mean, at this point, things are starting to heat up. Any final thoughts here, Eric, before I wrap up on the impact score chart or anything else you want to wrap up with?
Yeah. So before I head out, like I'm just curious if the Leafs are waiting after the Four Nations maybe to do a trade. I'm not sure if anyone in their radar are playing in the Four Nation, and I'd hate for the Leafs to trade and then someone gets injured. But I'm also curious about our defenseman, Yanni Hakanpää. Like, is this Four Nations going to be like a conditioning stint instead of sending him down to the Marlies? Is he gonna? Is this his ticket to show the Leafs what he's made of, and then after Four Nations, then they can rectify and figure out their trades?
Yeah, I think so as well.
I think that'll be interesting to watch. Sorry, Nick, but like Hakanpää, you know, if he plays in the Four Nation, which is the plan, but he doesn't play before that, I think that's a little crazy. But I feel like he hasn't played this year. He's played 2 games, so I honestly don't care. I would have been more insulted or more like fired up about Matthews being injured and playing, but obviously that's all well and good now, so that's fine. But I mean, if they want to use that as a conditioning stint, that's fine as long as it works out because they have 4 games left, I believe, before the Four Nations face off. So he's got to get into a couple here because they were saying he's going to get into a couple games before the Four Nations. It's got to happen now. So I'm going to be watching that closely next week. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's I agree. I think realistically we don't have we have a general idea. Brad Shilling could pull a crazy blockbuster move off tomorrow. It could happen next week. I think sometime in February would be my guess for a move. But Eric, it was a great calling in. Again, we'll probably have some trade deadline stream watches here, especially over the Four Nations break. So we'll definitely get you in for those. But appreciate the call in as usual. And it was nice to have some positive vibes following a really not positive showing from the Leafs tonight.
Anytime, Nick, Darius, thanks for having me on the call, and we'll chat next time.
Yes, sir. We'll see you in the next stream. They do play on Saturday, so hopefully we'll see you there. But ladies and gentlemen, any final thoughts? I saw the chat going a little bit. Some people saying trade Riley, some people saying I'd like Brock Nelson. Fraser Minton could be on the move. There's going to be a lot of talk surrounding trades. We'll obviously have streams on it, and there's going to be a lot of things there. But I mean, regarding the impact scorecard in tonight's game, I mean, it's Riley sucks. And
the moral of the story is,
I mean, which is it's bad because it's obvious in these games. Like it's some of the, and hopefully he can fix it or the Leafs trade for somebody. But at the end of the day, it's going to be something that's very interesting to keep an eye on. But that'll wrap up the stream. A nice long one for you all, despite the loss. We'll be back on Saturday, and that's going to be a big game. I mean, I hope they don't lose on Saturday against the Edmonton Oilers and John Klingberg. All signs are pointing to that. But we're going to have lots of videos.
John Klingberg. Yeah, not Connor McDavid. John Klingberg.
That's what I'm excited for, John Klingberg. But we'll probably multiple videos for you guys coming over the next few days. There's a lot of transactional talks that are going on between whether it be the Leafs, whether it be a lot of these teams. But shout out to everybody in here, Scott, Sam, everybody who tuned in. Of course, Shane, Eric as well for the great call-in, and I see all you guys in here. So and Joshua as well. Shout out to you, and of course Shane. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know down below if you're watching this afterwards. I don't usually say that, but let us know what your thoughts are on this, and we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. And I mean, it's going to be an interesting next little bit. Ultimately, I think these losses are going to make the trade deadline a little bit more interesting surrounding Morgan Riley, especially with his abysmal play. But thank you guys, and we'll see you guys later.
Digest your daily dose of gold. Stories of the bold where legends untold. From first pop drop to the season's fall. Tune in and watch the drama